What everyday skill becomes too suspicious if you're too good at it? Tying a noose. At basic training, I got tasked to help the drill sergeants create their haunted house battalion competition. Long story. My drill asked if anyone knew how to tie a noose, and I whipped out a perfect one in only a few seconds. He just looked at me and said, "Private." What the fuck? Story 2. I once had a neighbor catch me while I was taking groceries out of my car and ask if I knew how to open locked doors as they locked themselves out by mistake. Went over to their door, took out a credit card, and shimmied my way in no more than 5 seconds. Probably was bittersweet for them. Story 3. Remembering things about a person from a few months/years ago when the person herself can't remember about it. You just look like a stalker, and it's frustrating. I was once hitting it off with the girl I knew from high school at a bar. She didn't remember me, and I just knew who she was. Like I was aware she existed, so I said, "Oh, I remember you from high school." And that was the weirdest thing she'd ever heard, and it just killed the mood for her. "Sorry, I remember that you existed." I'm such a creep. Story 4. I have very fast reading comprehension. People never believe me when I say that I've already read it and get frustrated that I don't take longer. I can't do simple math, but I read like lightning. I'm also very good with card handling, so everyone suspects that I cheat at poker. I encourage that because it keeps their eyes on my hands and not on my face. Story 5. My mom can speed read like that and it drives me nuts. One morning I gave her a book I had read because I found it interesting, The Wealthy Barber. While we were watching TV, I hardly noticed her glancing at the book and she proceeded to toss it on the coffee table. Oh, I finished reading it. Holy shit, 25 min at most. Given it's a fairly small book, 150 pages, it took me weeks to get around to finishing what she hardly flinched at. Crazy skill! Story 6. I had teachers in school not believe that I read as fast as I did. I'd get accused of not reading what we were supposed to until they started asking questions about it and I could answer them all. Pretty much all I did as a kid was read. Only child living in a place with no neighbors. My speed has gotten slightly slower now that I'm not reading for hours every day, but it's still fast. Story 7. I'm like the exact opposite. I'm great at simple math, but I have the worst reading comprehension. It can take me upwards of 30 minutes just to read a paragraph and understand and remember what I just read. I'm great with words, and I can read super fast, but none of it sticks. Story 8. Eavesdropping. I just passively listen to other people a lot when I'm alone, even if I'm doing something else. It gets embarrassing when you bring up information you heard from their conversation forgetting that you weren't involved, or when you laugh at a joke said by someone across the room. Story 9. A lot of my male friends were surprised to see how good I was at removing blood stains. When they asked why I was so good at it, I struggled to find a euphemism instead of answering directly because I know most of them find menstruation talks gross, but that moment of pause made them even more freaked out. Story 10. Walking silently. It's always a good skill to have to be able to be quiet at a moment's notice, but do it too well and you start appearing behind people and freaking them out. How long have you been there? Type things. Story 11. My significant other's parents' house has hardwood floors that everyone just stomps around on. I don't like making noise when I walk, so according to them I sneak around their house and scare them unintentionally sometimes. I don't think it's an everyday skill, but being able to tell somebody by the sound of their footsteps. When friends or family approach my door, I know who's about to knock. I love creeping them out by saying, "Come in, name here." Story 12. Typing. I'm going to say typing. I type at a little over 150 WPM. I've been repeatedly accused of faking it, which sounds funny until it's your coworkers and boss saying it, calling your work into question. It's kind of creepy chatting with someone like that online. I spend like 15 seconds deciding how to phrase and typing out, "Did you like that one movie that came out last week?" And about 5 seconds later they respond with, "Yeah, it was better than I expected." I mean, it still wasn't the greatest movie I've seen, but I guess I'd recommend it to someone who likes that genre. It's like I'm talking to a bot. Story 13. In my experience in the US with people who don't have much background in science, being able to convert imperial weights to metric by knowing the conversion ratios makes them think I'm heavily involved in drugs. I wish we would switch already. The metric system is so much more intuitive. Story 14. Interrogating someone without them knowing. I was at a school thing, and one of my girl classmates really liked a guy but was too nervous to talk to him. She asked me to figure out some of his info, and I ended up getting a first name, last name, school, hobbies, and grade level. She was happy, but more than a little creeped out about how casually I did it. My former boss told me I had this skill and she would have me go to all of the hiring events that I work for a college and have me mingle and talk among the applicants and then have me show her the ones I felt had the most promise. People will tell you almost anything you want to know if you ask. Out of fun, I interrogated my barber the first time we met. Let's just say I know more about him than some of my best mates. Story 15. Really? That's creepy. This is one of the easiest things to do. Find some kind of opener. Then show you are really interested in someone and start asking them questions. Maintain interest, like there is nothing more important you could be doing, making them feel comfortable and appreciated, and lots will come tumbling out. I guess people don't know this, but it's one of the easiest things in the world. Story 16. Whistling. I can whistle the Android text tone and it freaks people out. Story 17. I can make a sound that is identical to the sound of the vibrating smartphone. It's basically a low hum through very slightly open lips and across your teeth. I used to sit in class and make this sound, and people would freak out and check their backpacks or purses, and the teacher would get super pissed since having a phone go off repeatedly is distracting. Story 18. I look at license plates. I don't know why, but it's every day for me. But for some reason, I pretty much had the license plate of the girl I liked memorized. It was easy to remember and we worked the same place together every day, so I saw it a lot. One time I almost slipped and said, "Hey, are you driving out in today?" and almost mentioned that the truck license plate looked just like hers. Story 19. On a similar note, I completely freaked out a guy because I'm observant and have a good memory. I saw a guy outside a QT store around 10 a.m. on the far east side of town. He was probably in his early to mid 50s and a bit scruffy looking, in a nerve-herder kind of a way. Later around 1 p.m., I saw the same guy standing at a crosswalk on the west side of town, waiting for the light to change, and then around 3 p.m., midtown. I decided to go to Denny's for a quick bite to eat, and there is a cute waitress I like. So sometime around 5 p.m., I'm just starting my meal and guess who I see walk past me and go to the cash register with his bill. I thought to myself, wow, I couldn't resist. I get up and tap him on the shoulder and say to him, "I've seen you around town today. 10 a.m. at the East Side QT, 1 p.m. at the intersection of North and East, 3 p.m. in front of the Greedy Bastards Money Grubber Bank on Broadway, and now here at Denny's Midtown." His eyes grew wide and he started stepping/stumbling backward, away from me. He backed right into the next customer behind him, waiting to pay their bill. That startled him and he dropped his receipt and the $1.20 he was going to use to pay his bill. He ran out of the restaurant and kept running until he was out of sight. I picked up the money and receipt and handed it to the waitress behind the counter and said something along the lines of, "I hope he comes back for his change." Both the waitress and the customer who was waiting in line looked at me kind of funny, but I didn't care. I went back to my table and finished my meal. I was just going about my business that day and happened to come across this guy several times in one day.